Welcome back, everybody. I am back with your daily news and stock and crypto report, and today is an update about Apple's fight with Facebook and Twitter and its future. As we can all see, Twitter and Facebook has really surprised most of us with its dramatic price movement and a deal with the Apple update. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe because we are hard at work daily searching and putting together all the valuable information you need about all the stocks and cryptos you know and love. Twitter Incorporated rose after reporting third-quarter sales and user growth in line with analysts' estimates, a sign the company's advertising business is weathering Apple Incorporated's new limits on consumer data collection. Twitter said Apple's privacy tracking changes, which require users to opt into data sharing, will have an ongoing modest impact on sales. Rivals Facebook Incorporated and Snap Incorporated earlier reported that the software changes dented their business because they made it harder to measure an ad's effectiveness. It is still too early for Twitter to assess the long-term impact of Apple's privacy-related iOS changes, but the Q3 revenue impact was lower than expected. The San Francisco-based company wrote Tuesday in a letter to shareholders. Sales gained 37%, $1.28 billion. Ad engagements, or the number of user interactions with paid messages, increased 6% from a year earlier. Twitter, unlike Facebook, makes most of its money from brand advertising, which requires less personal targeting and is measured more broadly. Twitter said it had 211 million daily users in the third quarter, 5 million more than the previous period and a 13% increase from a year earlier. The social media service attributed the growth to ongoing product improvements and global conversations around current events. The results show that Twitter, which expanded last year thanks to a contentious U.S. election and interest in the global pandemic, has been able to maintain steady growth since. While competitors like Snap and Facebook are struggling to adjust to Apple's changes, some aspects of Twitter's advertising business that may have seemed like a weakness earlier this year, such as its reliance on brand advertising, may suddenly be an asset. Chief Financial Officer Ned Siegel said the company is watching global supply chain issues closely, but suggested they may be less of an issue for Twitter given how advertisers use the platform. Well, more than half of ad revenue on Twitter is for services and digital goods, he said. Some of the largest advertisers in the world who sell products and services, often the campaigns you see on Twitter from these advertisers are for their services. Snap said last week that supply chain shortages would hurt its fourth quarter revenue because businesses are reluctant to promote products they can't produce or fulfill. Twitter projected that revenue in the current quarter will be $1.5 billion to $1.6 billion. Analysts, on average, estimated $1.58 billion, according to data compiled by Bloomberg. The company expects its user base to grow at or above the third quarter rate during the holiday period, according to the shareholder letter. Operating income will be $130 million to $180 million. Shares gained about 2.5% in extended trading after closing at $61.43 in New York. The stock has gained 13% this year. The company reported a third-quarter net loss of $536.8 million, or 67 cents a share, compared with net income of $28.7 million, or 4 cents a share, in the quarter a year earlier. The loss included a one-time litigation-related charge of $766 million resulting from the settlement of lawsuits, including a shareholder class action suit that had accused Twitter of painting an overly optimistic picture of its future in 2014. Twitter also said it wouldn't recoup an estimated $200 million to $250 million revenue loss in 2022 from the sale of MoPub, the company's advertising platform, while it shifts employees to new tasks. Twitter earlier this month said it would sell MoPub to AppLovin Corp. For $1.05 billion in cash. The company said Tuesday that it expects the deal to close in the first quarter. The company's shareholder letter was silent on the progress of Twitter Blue, a new subscription offering. Twitter is pushing into subscriptions as a way to diversify its sales. About 90% of the company's revenue is generated by advertising. Twitter Incorporated said Tuesday that its monthly active users and revenue rose in the third quarter, and that the effect of Apple's iOS privacy change on its ad business was modest. Revenue rose to $1.28 billion from $936 million in the year-ago quarter in all markets and Twitter. 1.09% said average monetizable daily active users increased 13% year-over-year to 211 million, which was up 5 million from the previous quarter. Analysts had expected $211.9 million. Ad revenue climbed 41% higher to $1.14 billion, with the company saying it was prepared for the Apple Plus 0.46% iOS change, which allows users to opt out of targeted ads that weigh on the earnings of competitors like Facebook Incorporated. It is still too early for Twitter to assess the long-term impact of Apple's privacy-related iOS changes, but the Q3 revenue impact was lower than expected, and we have incorporated an ongoing modest impact into our Q4 guidance. The company said in its letter to shareholders. The microblogging company reported a third-quarter loss of $536.8 million, or 67 cents a share, compared with a profit of $28.7 million, or 4 cents a share in the year-ago period, much of which it attributed to one-time $766 million charge related to a class action settlement over allegations it misled investors about user growth. Adjusted for stock-based compensation and other costs, the company's loss was 54 cents a share. Analysts surveyed by FactSet had forecast earnings of 17 cents a share on revenue of $1.28 billion. Twitter stock rose more than 3% after hours, after falling about 1% in the regular session to close at $61.43. Twitter expects fourth-quarter revenue of between $1.5 billion and $1.6 billion, while analysts had forecast revenue of $0.59 billion. Shares of Twitter have risen more than 13% year-to-date, and are up nearly 20% in the past 52 weeks. By comparison, the S&P 500 index plus 0.18% is up 21.8% so far this year, and has increased almost 35% in the 12 months. Snap stock has gotten crushed, and Cathie Wood's ARK just loaded up. Exchange-traded funds under the ETF umbrella of star investor Cathie Wood bought 462,490 shares of Snap, the parent of Snapchat that has been hard hit by privacy changes introduced by Apple. Wood's ARK Next Generation Internet ETF ticker, ARKW, purchased 301,671 Snap shares on Monday, according to the daily trades posted by the ARK funds. The ARK Fintech Innovation ETF ARKF bought 160,819 shares. Snap closed Monday at $54.50, down 1.2% after dropping 20% plus this past Friday. At that price, Wood's funds paid more than $25.2 million for the shares. Snap was up 1.5% to $55.33, even as Facebook FB stock declined 4.3% after earnings. Snap shares plunged last week after the company issued disappointing third-quarter financial results and an outlook for the fourth quarter that fell well short of expectations. Snap blamed the miss in part on changes in Apple's advertising tracking practices that make it harder to track consumer behavior across apps and websites. Our advertising business was disrupted by changes to iOS ad tracking that were broadly rolled out by Apple in June and July, the company said in remarks prepared for its earnings conference call. While we anticipated some degree of business disruption, the new Apple-provided measurement solution did not scale as we had expected, making it more difficult for our advertising partners to measure and manage their campaigns for iOS. And that's all I have for you today, and I want to tell everyone to continue to enjoy my videos and keep on buying the dip, because we have such a bright future with stocks and crypto. And don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe because I will be pumping out new videos daily. Have a fabulous day.